Today for predictions versus reality, we got to talk about a team that surprised a lot of people, but also showed what this team could truly look like with good coaching. I'm talking about the Los Angeles Chargers. We're going to talk about where I had them in August, what happened with their season and what went right with it, and then we're going to talk about how they can get better to conclude the show. But before we begin officially, all right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. Welcome in to predictions versus reality. The offseason series wrapping up very, very quickly as the offseason / free agency is finally here and deals are dropping like flies. So if you are a fan of a team over these next couple days, if you're a fan of the AFC West or a team in the AFC South, if a video drops and information is not there or it just doesn't seem, it's not there, it is not me not not me leaving it out. It's not me forgetting about it. News is literally dropping, like I said, like flies. Stuff is happening every single moment. There's news that I was making a script for to recover free agency, and I was going to record it tonight, but then more and more stuff keeps dropping, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait and just see what happens. Maybe record it on Wednesday, record an offense and a defense, and recap everything after the middle of the week as stuff begins to settle down. But that being said, before we go, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe button if you're new around here on the channel and you like the content. It helps me out tremendously and helps me continue to spread and grow my football passion to more and more people. But all that aside, let's begin talking about the Los Angeles Chargers. Where did I have this team in August? I had this team finishing 8-9. I had it because this roster, while it felt good, it was a good roster, with the history with Brandon Staley and whatnot, I didn't feel like this roster was ready to truly compete yet. Verbatim, I said that this year was like a baking in the oven type of year. I didn't like the receiving core and the overall lack of weapons. That was probably the worst part of this unit I thought would really hold this offense back in year one. And the offensive line had good pieces, but missing a couple. And the defense was overhauled, and given the track record of Brandon Staley defenses, underwhelming. I was skeptical about how good they could actually be. I liked Justin Herbert, and I thought the Jim Harbaugh hire at the time was good, and they had good pieces, but they were missing too much to truly be competitive. But I thought that the Brandon Staley Chargers were good, and were good enough to make the playoffs and compete. And I thought Jim Harbaugh alone would give this team some improvement, and there would be a lot to look forward to. Well, there was more than just a lot to look forward to, because they exceeded their record projection. What happened with their season? Well, they finished 11-6, second place in the AFC West, and made a playoff appearance against the Houston Texans, which they lost in pretty sad fashion, might I add. But that being said, Jim Harbaugh in year one took this team to the playoffs. Overall, their offense ranked 20th, and their defense finished 11th. And their three best wins were against Cincinnati, where they won 34-27, versus Denver 34-27 the second time they faced off, and then they beat New England 40-7 in Week 17, the week before the final week of the year. I picked these to be their three best wins, Cincinnati and Denver more specifically, because those are good football teams, right? Well, Cincinnati, it's more of Joe Burrow than it is the rest of the team being good, but they showed that they were able to compete, right? Win a tight game, go to toe-to-toe with the division rival, and then New England beating them 40-7. Every team beat up on New England, but at the same time, that was their most dominant win of the year. So I'll throw that on that list. Overall, their season was very good. Obviously, 11-6 is a good record, but this team started out hot. They were like 4-5-1. I'm pretty sure. I think I could be wrong on that. I think they might have been 3-3. I can't really remember how their season started, but and Justin Herbert was down, so the first couple of weeks were, even though they won a couple because of J.K. Dobbins popping off, it was a little inconsistent, but Justin Herbert came back and found his rhythm. And the offense, while it wasn't top tier and great, it was a very efficient unit. Of course, with J.K. Dobbins having the year that he had, right, helped Justin Herbert be the most efficient he has ever been in his career. And then you have Ladd McConkey, who broke out and had a really, really good season for a rookie. Quentin Johnston showed some good things, but honestly, I don't know if after 2025, if he's still going to be on the roster, barring a good big step forward. But Will Dissly, the tight end, he became a solid security blanket there by the end of the year. He was okay. And so there was a lot to like with the Chargers offense, despite them ranking 20th. Obviously, they were much more of a run football team, like I mentioned. That's a part of Jim Harbaugh, and then not Todd Monken, what's his name? Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator there. He used to be with Baltimore. That's kind of more their scheme, right? So it makes sense for what they were trying to do, and what they were able to do was okay. But definitely some of the setbacks on this team, like a couple missing pieces on the offensive line and the lack of overall talent at wide receiver, really held this offense back from reaching its true potential, where there was games where if they couldn't run the ball, they could not do what they needed to do on offense, and they kind of lived and died by that. So while it was a good year on offense for the Chargers, it was not great compared to previous years. It could have been better, but that being said, it was efficient, and that's what really mattered. Defensively, this is a really good unit. This is a really, really good unit, one of the best front sevens in the NFL. They had the best scoring defense in the NFL. This defense that was always an underwhelming bunch actually showed what they could be with better coaching with Jim Harbaugh. This defense really, really shined. And while there was only a few players that really stuck out, you look at this bunch as a unit, and they played very soundly. They played together, didn't commit very many penalties at all. They were one of the best at not committing penalties this year, which used to be a killer for the Chargers. So this unit really lived up to expectations for what they should do, for what this defense what they have on paper, what they should be able to do. They finally delivered, and now we get to see what that looks like. Okay, now we got something brewing here in Los Angeles with that defense, and then that you add on this offense and how decent it was in year one, add on to it in year two. Now we're talking. Now I think we're talking about a team that could really take the next step forward. But keeping with the present here, what went right with the Chargers season? Well, I've talked about him already. It was Jim Harbaugh. There's a reason why he's revered as just as much as his brother. He's a great football mind. He's a great leader. One heck of a coach. And it's crazy how one change became such a catalyst for the Chargers being a good team again. Because you get a new guy in here who's been successful. You're right. You think about Jim Harbaugh, he's revived Stanford. He's revived Michigan at the college level. And then he also revived the San Francisco 49ers there for a moment and brought them to a Super Bowl, coincidentally enough, against his brother in Super Bowl 47. So he's known for being a good football coach that revives programs. And the Chargers here are no different. You can see the effect that he has with his defense. And you look at Justin Herbert and how efficient he was, right, this year, the most efficient he's ever been in his career, like I mentioned. So his effect that he's had on this team is profound. And seeing this Chargers team finally get a good head coach, it's so good to see. It's so good to see so much talent on this roster finally see some winning, finally see more meaningful football. It's so good to see. Because like I said, there's so many good players on this roster that deserve it, that have worked really hard, and unfortunately have been held back by terrible coaching. So to get a good coach in here and to see them go into the playoffs in year one is very impressive. It makes me feel good for that entire organization, except for the ownership. I'm not a big fan of the Spanos family. But then again, hey, they got a winning season, so congratulations. Anyways, the next thing was the free agency class that they brought in was a massive success. J.K. Dobbins, like I mentioned, Will Dissly, like I mentioned on offense. Players like Poona Ford and Bradley Bozeman were impactful. Christian Fulton and Elijah Molden were impactful, which Elijah Molden just got in a contract extension, a 3-year extension worth $22 million, I'm pretty sure. So congratulations to him. And then also guys like Hayden Hurst, Gus Edwards, Alohi Gilman, Troy Dye, Tier Tart, all these guys that were brought in free agency were quality depth players that helped shore up a lot of position rooms. And when they were on the field, they weren't detriments, which when you find depth players, that's what you want. And so their free agency class, while it was a lot, they bring on in a lot of players, they got a lot of usage, got a lot of value out of those players, which really contributed to their year. Talking about J.K. Dobbins a little bit more specifically here, that's the third thing that went right. Not only did I talk about Justin Herbert's efficiency, you also talk about J.K. Dobbins and what he did this year from a personal standpoint for him. Has two really bad, I think he tore his Achilles twice or tore his ACL twice, right? So he's had two really, really gruesome injuries that normally for a running back would end their career. For him, not only did he come back, he had the best year of his career. And there's a reason why he was considered comeback player of the year by some circles in the NFL scene. So J.K. Dobbins, seeing how well he performed coming off of all those injuries, right? Signed a little deal, nothing too much, and then to be, the focal point of that offense, one of the focal points of that offense next to like Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey. Seeing him do well makes me feel so happy because I thought he was such a great player coming out of Ohio State. I thought he could really be a really good franchise, maybe not a franchise level back, not like a Saquon Barkley or like a Derrick Henry, for example, but he could be a very good back in a committee and really have a good role and have a successful career in the NFL. And so to see him finally have some success as a starter, finally healthy, it's awesome. It's really awesome. J.K. Dobbins played a big role in this offense's success in year one under Harbaugh. So wanted to shout him out personally. Thought he was a really good player this year. Continuing on, the draft class as well was very, very good. Ladd McConkey, of course, was phenomenal in year one of the best rookie receivers in the NFL and really helped elevate the passing game that I was really worried about. And then along with that, Joe Alt, their fifth overall pick in the draft, slid to right tackle and made an immediate impact. Was he great? No, but also he was very, very, very good. He did not allow a lot of pressures, a lot of sacks, and coming out of Notre Dame, he was touted as the most pro-ready prospect in that draft class. And he very much looked like it in year one. And then along with that, I think it was second round, or I can't remember, maybe third round, fourth round pick, Cam Hart, the corner. I think he also came out of Notre Dame. He also played a big role when other players got hurt in the secondary, which is something they dealt with all year long. When he came in, he played pretty darn well. So you got 3 players there in that draft class that were all pretty big contributors for in year one. In my opinion, that's a good formula to have a good first draft class, right? When you have 3 rookies that come in and play well, that's what you want. That's what you expect. You want at least a few players to be good level contributors for you. And they got 2 great ones and then a solid one in Cam Hart in year one. So congratulations to them for that. And it really helped them win. I don't know why I'm congratulating them, but hey, you know what? They deserve congratulations because it hit for them. So you know what? It's fair. It works. Nextly, is that a word? That is not a word. So moving on, the 5th thing that went right was the coordinator hires that they brought in. I mentioned him before. Greg Roman came from Baltimore, and then defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, who was a defensive coordinator in Michigan following Harbaugh to the NFL. These guys really proved quality additions. I mentioned, with the offense and J.K. Dobbins, how good he was, and then Justin Herbert's efficiency levels, right? I've talked about that. Then you look at the 2 tackles, Ronnie Stanley, he was on the Ravens. He just got re-signed. I'm not talking about Greg Roman, that's why. But Rashawn Slater, that's his name. Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt played well as in year one together as I'm scratching my eye. You also mentioned Ladd McConkey. Joshua Palmer continued to play well. Will Dissly. Like, Greg Roman's offense fit this offense pretty well in year one. Despite the overall lack of weapons, they were able to get solid production. And then Jesse Minter, who came from college to the NFL, immediately made a great impact in year one. And bam, there you go, right? So you get a new head coach in here, 2 new coordinators that are quality, and guess what? Now you actually got a roster that is competitive and actually was pretty darn good this year. So yeah, coaching was definitely the problem in the Brandon Staley era, and having these 2 guys as your coordinators definitely proved that narrative right. And then, I already talked. The last thing I was going to talk about was defense. I already talked about enough about how good this defense was and how it helped them. But I think we'll just continue now going into how can the Chargers get better. So let's start with the big 3. The big 3 for me, even though the Chargers have re-signed Khalil Mack, which I am going to drop a free agency, like a defense and then offense video right here in the next couple of days. So there's going to be that. Despite that, the Chargers still have a needed edge because they released Joey Bosa. They don't have anything else after Khalil Mack that's starting quality to me. So that's probably going to be one of their moves in the draft, day 1, day 2. A lot of edge rushers got signed in free agency today. Or technically yesterday when you guys are seeing this. So there's not a lot of depth players available anymore in free agency. So I think you're going to have to turn to the draft to get an edge rusher, which is fine. It's a deep edge class. So that's probably where they're going to go. And then the next one is defensive tackle. This is the one it's got Tierra Tart. Puna Ford, I think, could be a free agent. Maybe not. I can't remember. But he is a veteran. They do need a good young player at that spot. So drafting one on day 3, probably important there. And then wide receivers, the next one. Glad McConkey's good. Joshua Palmer left. He actually went to the Bills. That was a good signing for them, actually. And then Quentin Johnston, he's an unknown. He's an unknown if he's going to be good or not. So the Chargers need to go wide receiver. They could probably go wide receiver in the first round. I could see that happening. I just don't know if that really fits with what this offense wants to be with a more running-focused approach. So maybe not. But then again, I'm open to seeing it happen. They definitely need to get another receiver, though. A lot of free agent receivers are already off the board in day 1. They're not really making a lot of moves. So I'm hoping that they go to the draft here because there's not a lot of quality players available left in free agency at receiver. So getting one on day 2 or maybe in the first round is almost paramount at this point. They also could use guard, right? That could also be a spot. I also marked center here at the time, but the Chargers have extended Bradley Bozeman. So that's fine. I can get the move. So other than a few needs, this team should realistically take a step forward. But I will not lie. I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little standoffish about it, because I've already mentioned, like with edge and wide receiver, a lot of the top guys are off the board in free agency. And so they re-signed Bradley Bozeman. Great. They re-signed Khalil Mack. Great. And wait a second, they did bring in Najee Harris. That news just broke as of me recording this before I went to sit down and record, actually. So they brought in Najee Harris, which is nice. He's on a 1-year, $9 million deal, which helps the running game, fine. But I'm worried about how aggressive the Spanos family is going to be in free agency, because it's not them that's talking about free agency. It's obviously the front office and general manager, whatnot. But the Chargers have been known to be a, historically conservative team when it comes to free agency. But this is a year where I feel like they need to spend a little bit of money, and I don't think they're going to. If they can draft well, that can circumvent that. But with the holes that they have on this roster, I think it would do them good to sign some more free agents. And obviously, it's just day 1, of course. So there's going to be time. There's a lot of time, actually, to fill in those spots. But at the same time, they really need to make some moves to get better, and I'm not sure what they're going to do there. And also with the Chargers, can they just please show up in the playoffs? Every time they've been in the playoffs recently, they've crapped the bed. So that's going to be another thing that we're going to look at, because now at this point, Justin Herbert, in my opinion, is no longer a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, because he's not been able to play in that, show up in that playoff game, and he always does not play very well. So in the 2 that he's been in. So that needs to change, which is all those reasons why I'm, a little bit skeptical about this team. But realistically, they should be able to take a step forward, and I don't want to expect that, but it's really getting close to that point where I expect improvement. So here's to hoping that it happens. The Chargers deserve it. The players deserve it. The coaches deserve it. And they've worked really hard. So they should improve, and I'll be looking forward to that as the offseason continues. But that is going to do it for me today, though, with this video. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you guys liked it, and if you guys like the content or new around here on the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps out the channel tremendously and continues to help me grow and spread my football passion to more and more people. Also, Chargers fans, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Who do you want to draft in the first round? Do you like the Najee Harris signing and Bradley Bozeman extension, bringing back Khalil Mack as well? Who else do you want to target in free agency while this video is still, fresh? Maybe something happens, but we'll see. And then also, let me know any other thoughts, whether you think I'm right or wrong about this prediction versus reality video. And other than that, make sure you guys to share the video, whether it's by word of mouth, social media, getting everybody locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast. I come up with great videos for you guys every single week. And now we got free agency here. So on Wednesday or Thursday, probably Thursday morning, you guys are going to see free agency offense and defensive recaps, giving my analysis and grades for almost every signing there. All the major ones are going to be covered, of course. So keep your eye out for that. But until then, that's going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.